Hey, it's Paul from howtoplaybassdotcom. In this video we're going to learn how to play California Girls by the Beach Boys, not by Katy Perry. Next in our mini-series of Beach Boys bass lines. Nice little laid-back swing, eighth note kind of feel. You can also use some extension fingering on this, so although it's a simple, repetitive song, you can still get some mileage for improving your bass technique out of learning this song, as you'll see as we get into the lesson. There's a nice little substitution in the verse. The bass pattern stays the same for the first 4 bars, but the chords change and changes from 2 bars of B and then 2 bars of A over B, and the bass line didn't change. I don't know whether that was deliberately composed. It's quite unusual for the time period that the song was written, so it's an interesting little thing to notice in this song. Before we head over and look at the intro, if you're not a subscriber to my free monthly e-zine, click on the link underneath the video if you're watching on YouTube. Go to my website and subscribe. You get a free series of 4 PDF and video lessons, so thank you for subscribing. And then there's a monthly e-zine as well, which has video and PDF lesson. All that's exclusive to subscribers to that monthly e-zine, and it's totally free. It will cost you just your email address. So go and do that and come back here and we'll carry on with the lesson and we'll go and look at the intro. There's 2 parts to the intro. It's the first section, which is kind of a slowed down, slightly out of tempo sequence played with the guitar, and then the last 2 bars of the intro, the tempo picks up and we play the riff that then carries us through the verse and variations of that riff. So I play the first section up to the start of that riff, and then we'll look at those 2 bars separately. 1, 2, 3, 4. B there, that would be the note that we start with the 2-bar riff. So we look at those patterns first, and then we'll go into the more up-tempo section. So the first, there's a 2-bar pattern in B, which is played 3 times. And the notes are B, 2nd fret of the A string, G sharp, 1st fret of the G string, back to B, 1st fret of the A string, F sharp, 4th fret of the D string, back to B, 2nd fret of the A string, E, 2nd fret of the D string, D sharp, 1st fret of the D string, B and C sharp, 2nd and 4th frets of the A string. And if you listen to the Beach Boys original, you'll clearly hear the rhythm of those notes. That, as I say, plays 3 times, and then there's a 2-bar pattern. It's identical pattern, but it's just taken down to A. I played it like this, which is open A, F sharp, 4th fret of the D string, open A, E, 2nd fret of the D string, open A, D, 5th fret of the A string, C sharp, 4th fret of the A string, open A, and B, 2nd fret of the A string. And the rhythm again. Again, you can clearly hear that on the Beach Boys original. And then it goes into 2 bars, which sets up the verse. So what I'll do is I'll cover that 2-bar pattern in the verse section. The verse is an 8-bar pattern. It's repeated twice, and on the 2nd time through there's a slight variation in the last bar. Now the first 4 bars are a pattern that repeats, a very simple 4-note pattern that repeats 8 times in those first 4 bars. That pattern's also what's used in the first 2 bars as the tune goes up to tempo, so the last 2 bars of the intro. If you listen to the Beach Boys originals, that'll make sense. So I'm going to play the first 8 bars. Don't forget that the last 2 bars of the intro, which are identical to the first 4 bars, or any of the first 4 bars of this verse pattern. 2, 3, 4. back to verse 2, back on the B, and playing it there. Now one thing you may have noticed is I'm covering, normally people use what's called the 1 finger per fret rule, which gives you a 4 fret span with your hand. But to get the feel of this sounding right, what I'm doing is I'm playing B there at the 2nd fret of the A string with the 1st finger, and then with the 2nd finger I'm playing F sharp on the D string at the 4th fret, and then G sharp at the 6th fret. And doing that, it's called extension fingering, and it allows you to cover 5 frets with your 4 fingers. So those notes again are just B, 2nd fret of the A string, F sharp with the 2nd finger, 4th fret of the D string, G sharp, 6th fret of the D string, back to F sharp at the 4th fret, again 2nd finger, that's important to note, and then back to B, 2nd fret of the A string with the 1st finger. Now it just plays that pattern, that 4-note pattern 8 times. And when it's played it 8 times, it then plays the same pattern but transposed down to E. Because we're going down to E, we can use the open E string. It plays that pattern twice in E, and the notes are E, open E string of course, B, 2nd fret, the A string, C sharp, 4th fret of the A string, back to B at the 2nd fret, and then again back to E. Does that for 2 bars, and then that pattern shifts up to F sharp. You have to use the extension fingering again. Plays that for 2 bars. And the notes you've got there: F sharp, 2nd fret of the E string, C sharp, 4th fret of the A string, D sharp, 6th fret of the A string, back to C sharp at the 4th fret of the A string, and then back to F sharp. And plays that for 2 bars. And then you're back to the original, that's the end of one verse, then you're into verse 2, which is identical to verse 1, except those last 2 bars of F sharp, when you're going on the 2nd time through, plays one bar through of that pattern we just played. Hang on, play it with the metronome. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you've got some stabs just on the root note, the F sharp. They come on beat 2, and then kind of the swung and of beat 3 and beat 4. Again, if you listen to the original, you'll hear that rhythmic timing really clearly, and you'll be able to pick that up. So that's how we play through the 2 verses. After that comes the chorus. So let's move on and look at the chorus. Okay, the California Girls chorus, 6-bar pattern and then a 2-bar tag, which leads us back to the verse. Very simple. I'll play it with the metronome and then we'll talk through it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, then we'll be back to the verse. So those notes, you'll notice they're, and if you listen to the recording, you'll hear it. They're very much on the beats, but they're staccato notes. To make it really drive the chorus, you've got to play them staccato. Again, you listen to the recording, you'll hear that. Let's just walk through what the notes are. Each bar, the first 6 bars, is the same note, it's just the root note of the chord. You've got the first bar is B, 2nd fret of the A string, to C sharp, 4th fret of the A string, open A, and you'll have to mute that by bringing your hand in, unless you do right hand muting, and then you have to use that instead. Back to B for the 4th bar of the chorus, 2nd fret of the A string, down to G natural, 3rd fret of the E string, and back to the open A string. And then you've got 2 bars, a tag if you like, before we get back into verse 2 of the figure that we've already looked at in the verse. Okay, that only leaves us one section to look at, which is the outro and the kind of fill that leads into the outro. The last part of the tune to look at is the outro. This is essentially a 4-bar pattern that repeats during the fade of the tune. There is a fill that leads into it, and also that fill is then present in the 4th bar. I'll play it through and we'll talk through the notes afterwards. 1, 2, 3, 4. Etc. It just repeats that over and over. Okay, sorry, stop the metronome. Okay, let's look at the notes. We'll start with the actual fill. It's in C sharp minor, and it's pretty much a minor scale figure, a Dorian scalar figure if you know your scales. You've got C sharp, 6th fret of the G string, A sharp, 3rd fret of the G string, G sharp, 6th fret of the D string, F sharp, 4th fret of the D string, E, 7th fret of the A string, D sharp, 6th fret of the A string, C sharp, 4th fret of the A string, and it starts on an offbeat, so it'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, and then you'd be back into the... Okay, so let's look at the actual 4 bars itself. That fill crops up again with a tiny amendment and the 4th bar of the pattern. The first 2 bars of the outro you already know, the figure in B that we've looked at. And then what it does is it plays that same figure, but it's gone to C sharp minor, and what it does is it just changes the low note from B to C sharp. So you go from B to C sharp minor. So you play the same pattern except replace the B's with the C sharps at the 4th fret of the A string, and then the 4th bar of the pattern you've got that fill again, but this time there's a low C sharp on the downbeat of that bar. Very clever little fill actually, in terms of the way it's first played, where there's no downbeat, and then in the rest of the outro bars there is a downbeat. So that's just the notes we did before in the fill, with the exception you've got the low C sharp at the 4th fret of the A string, high C sharp, 6th fret of the G string, A sharp, 3rd fret of the G string, G sharp, 6th fret of the D string, F sharp, 4th fret of the D string, and then that triplet run, which is E, D sharp, C sharp, 7, 6, 4 respectively of the A string, and then you're back into it and it just repeats and fades. And that's putting all those parts together should be able to get you through California Girls.